This is Voices from the Field with Katie Lively and Jessi Warren. And today we have Selena Collins-Patterson. She is the president of the Atlanta Vipers organization and the head coach of Atlanta Vipers Patterson. She played at Texas A&M, where she was named an All-American, Big 12 Conference Player of the Year, and A&M Female Athlete of the Year, while also being inducted into the Hall of Fame at Texas A&M. And she has coached collegiately at the high school level and travel ball level. So impressive of a resume from Selena. We are so excited to have you on today. If you could just start off by telling us about your 2012 team and what led you to start this team, and how have you seen them develop over the past few seasons?
Yeah, I originally, so truth be told, I had no intention of coaching like at the younger level. Like I really didn't. Like I started out because I was like, well, I was coaching collegiately, and then, when I started a family, it was just one of those things, it's like when you coach collegiately, it's a big sacrifice and you have to know what you're willing to sacrifice. And so at the time I was starting a family and I was like, yeah, I just don't really want to miss anything. And so I stopped coaching for a while, and I had just got into it I hadn't coached probably in, I don't know, maybe 4 years at that point. And I somehow got into coaching a middle school team. So over at Pace Academy. So they got me there and I was like, all right, just dip my toes. It's fine. But I will not coach varsity, because if I coach varsity, that means it's just more time commitment. And there's just like no way I'm doing that. So then 3 years go by and the head coach leaves, the varsity coach at Pace, and they said, well, hey, do you think, you'd want to step in? And I was like, not really, but I will. And so I did. And then I was there for 5 years. And then I ended up taking this opportunity at Marist, and now I'm the varsity coach there. And so this was my first year there with them. And so here I am, not thinking I'd be involved with the youth. And and then all of a sudden it's like, okay, this is where I'm meant to be. Like this is where I feel like I'm having an impact. And so I wouldn't even coach. I have two daughters, and so I have a 12-year-old and I have an 8-year-old. And so as my 12-year-old was coming up, I said, there's no way I'm coaching you like rec ball. Like I can't do the rec ball. I'm too intense. There's no way. Like, I'll ruin all the children. And so my husband, I would volunteer him every time because he is so patient. He's played, he has almost 10 big league years, and so he's very knowledgeable. And so I was like, well, you do it. Like you're more patient than I am. Like you would handle the children just fine. And this is your jam, and I'll just sit back. And so I sat back. I didn't touch it. And then finally, second year, 10U, my daughter was loving it. I mean, she watched she wakes up in the morning, watches college softball. Before she goes to bed at night, would watch college softball. And I was like, okay, there could be something here. But I'm only doing it if I'm going to do travel and you're willing to like level up. And so I just talked to her and I was like, hey, do you like rec ball? Like, do you like where you're at? Or would you like to be more competitive? Would you like to level up in a sense? And so I said, if you level up, I will coach you. I said, if you don't level up, then dad will continue to coach you and we're all good and everybody's happy. And she wanted to level up. And so I was like, all right, let's do this. And so that's when I got involved with the Viper organization, and I took over a team, and I had no players. And so I linked up with I kind of put the word out that I was going to be coaching, and then I started getting some interest, and I had tryouts, and then I linked up who is now is my assistant coach. And there was a core group of players. There were 6 of them that were playing with the Fury at the time. And I said, bring them over like part of my tryout. Let's see how this goes. And that's when I had started. I took all 6 of them. I had my daughter and 2 other players that we took from our rec team. And we started with that. And so I started out with 10, 11 players, maybe 10 or 11 players. And we just rolled with it. And the first tournament we played in, we just weren't any good. And so everybody's starting to freak out because we're supposed to be this big name team. And our first game, our first 2 tournaments out of the gate, like not great, and so it was one of those things where it's like, okay, like this is a process. And for me, it's a slow and steady process, and they're 10. And so as we, start to develop, like I look at the long game and I'm not looking at the short game. I'm not looking at what's happening right this second. We're putting pieces together to develop these players so that they can reach their goals. And oftentimes it's hard to get the parents on board and to understand like this is the way I do things. And if you're on board with me, then I'd love to have your kid like compete. If not, I'm going to create a culture where the parents leave me alone in a way, and
Right.
allow me to teach and mold your kids, because at the end of the day, I've been there, done it, and I know the path and I know what it takes. And so if you're allowing me to push your children and you're allowing me to coach them, I need you to do that. And so
Right.
they have, and it's been, so far a great season, or a great I should say like a great team that I've cultivated with my assistant coach. And here we are out here, competing and winning some tournaments.
I
That's
love that.
awesome.
I
You
love
speak
that.
you speak about process, and I feel like I was that athlete that you're talking about because my team was together from when we were 8 until we were 18, like leaving for
Wow.
college. And
Yeah,
I feel like there was such a big gap from when we were 8 to like 12 that we weren't good. And
yeah.
we had to allow our coach to develop us as
Yeah.
athletes. And like I said, we had to allow our parents to allow him to do that. So with that being said, like with the same core group staying together over the past 3 seasons with you, what impact has that stability like had on your team's success and chemistry as a whole?
It's a big impact, especially as they're younger, because they form a bond, like they're growing up together, and it's like they're going through all the things together, right? And it's like and so it's helped to create a culture, or to understand the culture and the expectations. And so that, when we did have players come in and then leave, and then come in and then leave, the core group established knew what that expectation was. And so when people would come in, they were like, okay, this is how they do things. And it allowed the transition for new players. It allowed that to be a little more seamless. It wasn't like I was having to reinvent the wheel all over again. It was like, this is the process, like, oh, this is how we do it. And they just jump in and get on board right away. And really, my biggest thing is like I talk to the newcomers, and I kind of lay the law, and I lay the law with the parents, and then the girls get out there and they move with my core group. And it's like it's like my group now that I have, it's like we've been together forever, because through the last couple of years that I've had the core group and that we've competed, the players that have come on have seen how we operate when we're on the field. And so it's no surprise when you join us that there's nothing that's not fluff. Like how we play and how we compete is exactly how we practice and how we move as a unit. And so I think it, yes, creates the stability and the consistency and the culture. It holds the culture, but it also allows for new players to come in and slide in and feel like they're have been a part of the team forever.
That's awesome. I love the culture piece. I think that's something that is really hard to form on travel ball, especially now with so many moving parts and
Yeah.
people moving teams all the time. So I love that culture is so important to you. And kind of speaking on mindset, in your team spotlight, you had mentioned that your team really focuses on mental resilience and a growth mindset. What strategies do you use to really practice that and maintain that sense of mental toughness and being able to have a growth mindset with the process that you're talking about?
Yeah, and I think it's for me it's important at the youth level, and that's why it's like it's taken me a while to like realize that my calling is at the youth level. And that's just because I believe in your mind, and I believe in building resilience, and I believe in speaking it to existence. And if you say it enough, you start to believe it, and that's the negative thoughts too, and the negative words too, and especially at such a young age. our girls are still learning to deal with failure, and they think that failure is who they are, and I don't want that for them. I don't want them to think that, especially in a game of failure, that every time they fail, that means that they are failures. And just helping them to understand that this process means that, working hard and all of those things, like it doesn't mean that you deserve it. It doesn't mean that you're going to get the outcome that you want. All that means is that you're giving yourself a chance to receive that outcome that you're working for, and you're giving yourself a chance for growth. And so we work on it. We work on it preseason, but before every tournament, we do visualization. And so my girls, I mean, and we'll see pictures around, and, people that are on the outside don't understand it. Of course, they think we're just like a mind cult or something. And so, but my girls love it. And I introduced it to my Marist softball team, my varsity team this season, and they love it. They don't want to start a game without that sense of calm and awareness and getting their minds right and finding a mantra that's going to work for them for the season or for that game, and repeating that mantra to themselves. And on that third time, like really think about those words and understand what you're saying and what they mean to you and how they make you feel. And so I'm leading them through this visualization and breathing. We work on breathing in through your nose, out through your mouth, breathing in your mantra, releasing, exhaling anything negative, just to try to clear their minds and to block out the noise and to block out that negativity. And so that's one, like the biggest thing that we do is our visualization, and it's without fail. I mean, we'll do it to set our intentions before practice as well. What are you wanting to accomplish today? What is, I need two mental and one physical. What are those things that you're going to be working on today at practice? And then when we get to our tournaments, again, we'll do it before the tournament starts. And then we'll, on our wristband cards, one of the calls is, everybody's saying bunt and run and steal and all those. And one of ours is deep breath. And so when the moment gets too big and they're in a pressure situation and I call something, and I feel like they need to relax, that might be one of the ones that I call. And when I do that, you can see their shoulders, they take a deep breath, and you can see that tension release out of their shoulders, and they lock in. And so for me, like that is so important. And that's something that I really pride myself in and my coaching staff in, is getting their minds right. And so that is through mental visualization. And then we also do goal setting. So throughout the season, at the beginning of the season, and actually one of my good friends, husband's Tri Flowers, she's the head softball coach over at Loyola, and her husband, Jason Flowers, played basketball at UCLA, and now he has this like mental journal. And so we actually started, we're going to be starting this one in the fall, and it's called Go Getter. And so, and it just will lead them through like the different like reflections and like setting their intentions and setting their goals and like following that and tracking that, so that we don't set and forget. So it's one of those things that we're tracking our goals, and we're pacing it and following it throughout our season. So so those are just a couple of the things that we do. And I just don't allow like negative talk in our dugout either. Like I don't want to hear if you've had a failure, you say, I suck. Well, you don't suck. That was a sucky moment. And I often tell them, okay, well, you can't suck at both. You can't suck at offense and defense. So you need to figure out a way to get it together. And so I allow them 7 seconds in the dugout after a failure at bat or on for offense. You get your moment, sit on the bench, take 7 seconds, but then after 7 seconds is over, I better see you up on the fence cheering on your teammates. So it's just a culture and a mindset that is like, you're not bigger than the team, but you're allowed to feel your failure, but you can't sit in it too long.
Yeah, I think that's so important too, just to have them at such a young age already learning that mental side of the game, because obviously as they get older, they're going to understand it a little bit better that, they aren't their mistakes, and the like this game doesn't make them as a human. There's so much more than softball.
Right.
But you talk about competing, and we know that you've competed in some of like the high level youth events in softball. So how do you choose these tournaments that you attend, and what benefits do you see in participating in these high level tournaments for your athletes?
Yeah, so well, Jeff Mack runs really good PGF tournaments, and I think just with as we've continued to grow, we just look at the tournaments where all the better teams are. We don't run from even when we didn't know who the teams were. I went out and did research, and I'm like, okay, who are going to be the best teams, and that's who we're going to chase. And so I don't run away from competition like I want it. Like I want my team to play the best because in order to be the best, you got to play the best and you got to challenge yourselves. And you have to know what it feels like to be in pressure situations. You have to know how to handle that. And you got to fail sometimes and learn what that resilience looks like. So we chase the competition. We chase the best teams. And oftentimes we're the ones being chased, and I love it. I love wearing a crown and being the ones that the teams are chasing after, because then that requires us to bring our best all of the time. So I look for the best tournaments based off of reputation, and then chase the best teams.
So you've mentioned about your coaching staff and the extensive knowledge and experience they give to your team. So how do you guys work together to make sure that your girls get the best mentorship and guidance that they can possible as they're growing in their sport?
Yeah, so well, when I first started out, I was really kind of by myself when I first took over this team. And I had a couple coaches that were helpful. But when I linked up with Carla Crenshaw, who's my assistant coach, I just found she was very knowledgeable and she was willing to, and if she didn't know the answer, she was willing to find it and figure out what was going to be um, the best support for me. And I really do call her my right hand because it's like we're on the same wavelength. We want the same thing for our players. We want to help them reach their goals. But we can't have two. She's more of the calm and I'm more of the storm. And so we can't have two of those. And so
Yeah.
we can't have the one that's super intense, which is me, and then one that is, we can't have two of those. So I needed her to be the more calm, and she is. She's just more of a calm demeanor, but still demands respect. So I love being able to. So we'll just talk about practices. Like we often go to lunch or brunch and just kind of talk about, okay, what are we doing for practice? Like, how do we want to operate this? And what do we want to do? Do we want to be in this tournament? And we really do bounce ideas off of each other and go over games and I mean she's sitting right there next to me when we're in the dugout and she's charting pitches and I'm charting pitches and we're kind of talking back and forth between, okay, well, what did this girl do? What did she do? And hey, do we need to move the defense? And we're just constantly talking and moving. And oftentimes you find, which I think is strange, that that like umpires or people don't give as much respect to female coaches, which is so weird to me because it's like this is our game. Like
It's our sport.
we
Yeah.
we played that, like this is my sport.
Yeah.
And so we often run into that, but I just think it's so empowering to have two female coaches on either side of the base paths. And so I love it. I think it brings an energy and a kind of swag about our team that to me, to have two respected female coaches that play the game the right way is something that is to be desired. And I love it. And I like I said, I think, being called the right hand pretty much says it all in terms of what a great support she is. And honestly, it's like I couldn't do what I need to do as in being myself as a coach if I didn't have her on the backside, like helping or reminding. And I mean, it's something simple, even as posting and making sure we're keeping up with our socials and, the things that like I don't love, but
Yeah.
try to stay up with. She's on it. She's on it. And it helps me. It helps me and it helps us to be successful.
What do you think makes the Atlanta Vipers Patterson team unique in comparison to the other organizations and teams in your region?
Yeah, well, the unique part I think just comes from um, the mindset that we have. And I think I spoke on this in our highlight was that we just focus on mental resilience and to see where my team started out. Because that's the hardest thing you're going to do. I mean, it's the hardest thing that we're ever going to do. And it's not just in the game of softball, it's in life. Like, that's the hardest thing to control. And so when I talk to my players about controlling the controllables, they really know what that means. Like, and when I say like get your mind right, like they know the words, like they know the key words that I've been instilling in them since we've been a unit. And I just have to say the words, and automatically it's like they like lock in, like, okay, this is like I'm starting to flail, and you can like see it on their body, when they take a deep breath. And I think to me that is something that I'm really prideful in, is that I say lock in, or I say get your mind right, and all of a sudden I see my pitcher who I can see she's nervous, but all of a sudden takes a deep breath, and it makes all the difference in the world. And so when it comes to the uniqueness, I think that there's just not a lot of teams, not our age, that are focusing on the mental resilience and teaching these girls what it is to control the controllables, and to focus on what we can control. And that's our effort, our attitude, our hustle, and the way that we feel and think and move and about ourselves. And so to focus on that is something that I pride myself in as a coach. And it's something that I'm prideful in, that our players really do practice that. And so when it comes to the uniqueness, I think that's something that we have. And then just having a core group, I think is important. And then also the two female coaches, I think is like, pretty powerful as well. I think is unique, like you said, you just don't find that a lot in the travel ball world. So we have a few unique things about us. And I don't know that this is unique, but it's something that I pride our team in as well, is that we're resilient, and they're a reflection of me. And so when I get a compliment that, man, they play like I would expect them to play with you as the coach, it's something that it makes me proud, because that tells me that they go out there and they're gritty, and they like give 100%, and they're controlling the controllables, and they're going all out, and they're leaving it all on the line. And I always tell them, don't leave anything in the reserve. And so to watch them compete, I think is fun. And because they're just not gonna hold anything back. And so for me, I'm proud of that.
Yeah. That is awesome. Well, I love that. I love all of that. I think that it's so much fun to see coaches like yourself that are really growing the game and putting it in the right direction. And like Jessi said earlier, you don't see that as much in the younger age
Yeah.
group as you do in the older age group. So I love it. Thank you so much, Selena, for being
Yes,
on a
thank
call with
you.
us.
Thank you.
Yeah, I loved learning about your organization, about your team. And we wish you the best of luck in the
Thank you.
fall and the spring and the summer and all the fun things that come with that. So,
I appreciate this
absolutely.
interview. It was a lot of fun.
Yes, awesome. Well, thank
We
you so
appreciate you
much.
coming in.
All right, thanks,
Yeah,
guys.
thanks. Have a
Bye.
great day.
You too.